just arrived in Vienna after that 9-hour flight, so it is now 8:54 in the morning here, which is not great because I didn't really get much sleep. That's fine. Also, this airport is literally in the middle of nowhere. Like, there's nothing around here. Just like nice hills, trees, but yeah, I guess it's pretty far away from actual Vienna. But yeah, so I'm here for another 5-ish hours until my next flight. So. I was kind of scared of starting abroad at first, mostly because I'd be away for almost 2 months with people that I'd never met before in a different country with a different culture. I think what pushed me over to do this is that I've always wanted to figure out what it's like to not be a tourist in a new country, and to really explore what it means to live there for an extended period of time, and I'm really glad that I took on that challenge. So we made it to Vis yesterday, and so we are currently on the island. It's been pretty nice so far. We went to our places that we were staying yesterday, and now today we will have our orientation. And yeah, now I'm just gonna wander the island a little bit. The island of Vis has historically been a very important place. The Greek colony of Isa was founded on Vis, which later became its own independent polis, capable of making its own decisions. As the furthest inhabited island off the coast, Vis held a strategic location in the Adriatic Sea, and thus lended itself to centuries of conquest. Vis has been a part of the Republic of Venice, the Kingdom of Italy, and the Austrian Empire at some point in history. In 1920, it became part of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, and is now part of Croatia. The island itself as of today has a population of around 3,000 residents. Vis has its own school system and is 100% renewable powered during the summer months. A fun fact about Vis is that part of Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again was filmed here, which has helped to popularize it as a travel destination. In addition, there are several endemic species of grape that grow here, which has helped to boost the importance of Vis to the viticulture industry. Good morning, it is Wednesday, and we are going to go out for a little bike ride to one of the sand beaches on the other side of the island, so yeah. Oh, sick. We're at the submarine tunnel. During World War II, the island was one of several that was controlled by the Yugoslav partisan movement, and which served as its base of operations until the end of the war. Tito, who was the leader of the partisan movement, ran the headquarters of its operations in a cave on the island. Tito would later become the prime minister and president of Yugoslavia. Vis was a naval base until 1989. As a result, you can find submarine tunnels like these, capable of sheltering large submarines and serving as a refuel point. Whoa! Go! Yep. Whoa! Oh. Oh my goodness. Alright, I'm coming in too. got ice cream. Good morning, today is Saturday and we are going to go on a little boat to the island Hvar, which is another island off the coast of Croatia. So here we go. Oh, and someone's feeding the seagulls. We're now on Hvar! Yay! We're going to walk around and explore and see what we can find. So, going to a cafe. Real. Today. My phone didn't charge.
Oh, and for you too.
We're in Split now. Woo! It has like a, well, this one's called latte, I think. We're in the old city.
Hi.
Yay. It's very hot.
One, two. Has anyone tried standing like vertically?
Vertically? Well, you're not standing vertically? You're standing vertically.
Okay, so Dubrovnik, we just arrived at the hostel, which is really fun. But we're gonna go to the gondola soon and then we'll see how it goes.
Then we get dinner there!
Woo.
We don't have dinner.
I'm so excited. It's gonna be we're ascending the walls of Dubrovnik now. It's quite a lot of stairs. We'll see how it goes. Alright, we're leaving Dubrovnik. Yay. What was your favorite part of the trip?
Probably the Buzza Beach Bar.
The beach bar. On one of our last days, we had the opportunity to work with some 6th to 8th graders on Vis in a math and English workshop. 5 of us went on their second to last day of school, where we worked with them in stations on a variety of math and English topics, including estimation, logic, word, and card games. We had a lot of fun, and we hope the students did as well. Good morning. It is June 23rd. Today is the official day that we leave the island of Vis to go to Sarajevo and continue the rest of the course. Definitely had that feeling of island fever. Do not want to be here any second longer. I think mostly because I want food that's not pizza and pizza. I'm looking forward to Sarajevo. That if you drink from this fountain on your first hunt here, you'll come back to Sarajevo. Sarajevo is the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which borders Croatia on the north, Serbia to the east, and Montenegro to the southeast. Bosnia and Herzegovina is a multinational state, which means that you can find various nationalities and ethnic groups, the main groups of which are the Bosniaks, Croats, and Serbs living within the same country. These ethnicities correspond with religions such as Islam, Catholicism, and Orthodoxy respectively, which along with Judaism have deep roots within the city of Sarajevo. In 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who was the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated in Sarajevo. The assassination triggered the events of World War I. This is the spot where the assassin Gavrilo Princip stood when he assassinated Franz Ferdinand. Sarajevo is also the site of horrific violence. From April 1992 to February 1996, the city was blockaded by the Bosnian Serb army for more than 1,400 days, which is the longest siege in modern history. The Bosnian War officially ended in December 1995. If you're interested in learning more about the history of the region and the Bosnian War, I recommend the documentary The Death of Yugoslavia as a good starting point. It is available on YouTube and I have linked it in the description. So we're in Zagreb now, which is the capital of Croatia, where we'll be here for about 2 more weeks to wrap up the remainder of the course. Right after arriving, we took a group trip to Lake Bled, which is in Slovenia. The train ride there was incredible, with beautiful landscapes of Slovenia passing by our windows. Once we reached Lake Bled, we took about a 30-minute hike to the hostel, which was quite the adventure. The area around the lake was also quite stunning. We spent our time exploring the small town, getting some nice food, and then we were ready for the day's activities. One of the highlights was visiting the church in the middle of the lake. We rented a rowboat to get there, but with only an hour and 30 minutes, the rowing was surprisingly taxing. We managed to only spend a few moments on the island because of that, but it was really quite beautiful. I rewarded myself with a gelato just because rowing is hard. Anyways, we also rode on the mountain coaster, which is really fun and exciting. It's one of those coasters which allows you to control the speed at which you go down. So you can either make it faster or slower depending on what you're comfortable with. And we were able to see these really beautiful landscapes of Lake Bled while we were going down. On our last day, we visited a place called Vintgar Gorge. It's a breathtaking natural landmark that follows the Rodopna River through a canyon. The falls at the end, called Shroom Falls, is also called Noisy Falls, is the largest river waterfall in Slovenia, and it was absolutely magnificent. We got some really nice photos, and then we capped off that trip with a little hike back to the entrance of the gorge. Now that our program is coming to an end, I thought it would be cool for me to end this video with some reflections from the students who have been on this program. You'll get to hear about some of their amazing experiences, what they took away, and then you'll also be able to hear from the professors who have taught both courses that we've taken while on the study abroad trip. So thanks for watching, and I sincerely hope you enjoy our reflections from our amazing journey.
Hi, my name is Dakota Degenhardt. I am a rising junior at Harvard College, and I'm studying human evolutionary biology.
Hey guys, my name's Zach, Zachary Birdie. I am a rising junior at Harvard College as well, and I will be studying applied mathematics with a track in economics.
Great. So what brought you to the study abroad program, and why did you choose Croatia?
For me, what brought me to the study abroad program was probably the idea that it was in Croatia. So growing up, I took AP European history, and that's kind of like the basis of where I got a lot of my European knowledge from, like European historical knowledge. And I didn't learn about the Balkans as much because they weren't really as, I don't know, the center of conflict between everything that's happened in Europe for the past couple centuries. And so coming here, I'm able to realize like there's so much more here than there is to learn about than school, and that I was opened up to everything that I've learned about Croatia, about Bosnia, about Serbia, about all the ethnic tensions, nationalism, and it's just a very interesting identities here to learn about and get a good local perspective with our teacher Petra. She's an amazing teacher that helped learn about the local perspectives and everything. And otherwise, Dakota is also, I knew her coming in, and we both applied to Croatia too. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I'm going to be completely honest, I think for me, when I was first looking at, I knew I definitely wanted to study abroad. That's definitely one of my goals of coming to Harvard. I knew something I needed to do. And this was one of the programs that actually fit really well into my summer. And I like to think about it as kind of like fate, that this is the one that perfectly fit, because I thought this was truly like the perfect program for me, and I didn't really expect it. Like, to admit, like, my ignorance right now, like, I didn't really know anything about Croatia or the Balkans or anything, so I love the idea of getting to go to a place that I didn't really know anything about, and seeing the program and even talking to Petra on Zoom before this, I really liked how immersive the program is. We've been learning about Islandology on the island of Vis, learning about borders in all of these places where the war and everything was so fresh and borders were so important and meant so much. I just really love the idea of this program as a whole.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I was looking for a summer program that was, first of all, in Europe, and second of all, I wanted to go somewhere that had a program focused on community aspects, had a smaller group, and was in a country that was, for lack of a better word, a little bit more underground, like not as well traveled, like other countries like France, Italy, Spain. So I landed on Croatia, and it worked out really well.
And those are really good reasons. I think a lot of them were also factors into why I chose Croatia. I think something else was sort of like the courses. I've never taken anything in like the history, geography, politics area, and sort of being able to explore those within like Croatia itself was super exciting. And I also wanted to live somewhere that was a little more, I guess, isolated from the rest of the world. And I think Vis was just the greatest opportunity to do so.
I actually did it because my mom recommended that I do it because she thought that I really should get out and kind of get more world experience in this regard. So that's why I decided to study abroad. In terms of why Croatia, my brother actually recommended this location to me. He actually originally looked at my list of places I wanted to go to. He called me basic, and then he rewrote the entire thing for me. And at the top of the list was Croatia, and he thought that I would be really compatible going here to study abroad.
For me, well, I kind of applied really late, so I had to automatically eliminate. I had to eliminate every program that required a recommendation letter, which was like half of them low-key. I really liked that the Croatian one was very immersive. I ended up applying for 2. I applied for the Taiwan program and then the Croatia one. And then when I told my mom about Taiwan, she was like, you can already speak Chinese, so there's no point. So you should go to Croatia. But as for why I applied in the first place, I thought it was really beautiful. I liked that there were so many different locations and that you could experience like 3 different, like vastly different cities and locations. And also just like how immersive it was and how I felt like I didn't really know anything about this region, whereas I knew like other things about the other possible locations.
I had recently, well, about 2 years ago, taken a family vacation to Croatia, and I loved it so much that I wanted to do anything I could to get back to Croatia. And I found a study abroad program in Croatia, through this program, and I noticed it was political science related. So I immediately signed up for it because those are my 2 big interests, being abroad and studying politics.
The reason I chose to study abroad in the first place is that I felt like sort of my undergraduate education would sort of be a little incomplete without it. I feel like it's important to try to get out of the bubbles we put ourselves into. I mean, there's kind of a Harvard bubble. We have I have a bubble in my home, and the U.S. is in its own way, kind of its own bubble. So I thought it would be good to go and experience some other part of the world for a time.
Well, my roommate did this program last year, Pro Safe, and he could not stop talking about it at all during the last year, only good things. And then when it came time around season to apply, it was debating between like, should I go for internships? Should I do a study program? And after hearing everything that he had told me about, like I knew I had to take this. And then it was a big plus when I got funding for it that was able to make this possible. So very, very thankful for the Rockefeller Foundation for being able to allow me to come. Shout out to the Rockefeller. Shout out.
I have a similar story with, you actually know Tess. So Tess from last year also spoke to me. I met her in an English class. And I was deciding between this and a program at Oxford. And then I realized that Oxford would be way too boring, frankly. So that's kind of how I came to my decision. I knew I wanted to do like a summer study abroad. I hadn't done that yet. And it would have been my kind of last summer where I would have been able to do that. So Tess convinced me. Yeah.
So what has been the most surprising or unexpected aspect of your study abroad experience so far?
Yeah, I can go first this time. I think what was definitely most surprising, kind of to what to my point I was saying earlier, I think I was most surprised at how much I didn't know going into this program. I knew this was something going to be completely new for me, but I really didn't understand how like rich and vast the history was here. I had no idea about Yugoslavia, the break of Yugoslavia, how that unfolded, what that meant, and stuff that didn't even happen that long ago. So I thought that was super surprising to me, all the rich culture here, diversity, and everything that happened so recently. I mean, I wore my hat the other day and it said Croatia established in 1991, and to think that wasn't even that long ago was really surprising to me.
Yeah, no, I think I have to agree with Dakota on this one, because before coming here, I didn't really know much about the Balkans. And I think what's really surprising me is actually the continued conflict that happened because of the recent wars. Because, you talk about how wars happen, the conflict that arises as a consequence of the war is prolonged due to the hardships that come with war. And I think that it was really cool to kind of experience those, the tensions that come with the aftermath of the war while being here. And I think that was learning about that. It's really surprised me how it still occurs today. And of course, in many other places of the world too. So
I would say that maybe personally what I found most surprising was the class aspect, like the concepts that we spoke about. As you guys probably know very well, we're at ECSWP, which is the study of European Center for the Study of War and Peace. So very naturally our subjects that we studied were about like the Yugoslav wars and the conflicts that that made up the Yugoslav wars. And I think one thing that I didn't really expect was that war doesn't end on the date of like a treaty being signed, for example, or like an agreement being signed. Like the aftermath and the generational trauma that happens after, and the way that communities heal is just so much more than the end of a war. Like I think the materials that we covered in class, like we watched a film recently where we talked about women victims of war and how those aftermaths carry on for future generations. And I think that's something that I hadn't really considered and has helped me understand like other conflicts moving forward. Like for example, comfort women in South Korea, that's still a very contentious issue between South Korea and Japan. So I think I come away with a lot more understanding of some of the conflicts around the world.
Yeah, I think very similar. I didn't expect how much the museums that we went to in Bosnia would have affected me and like everyone else in the trip as well. I think that we came away with a greater understanding of sort of the ways war affected people and its aftermath. And I think it was an inspiration for a lot of the breviaries I had to write following.
Yeah, it's like a very humanizing.
Yeah.
I think this program did such a great job of like humanizing the war, for lack of a better word, because it's very easy for us to make victim statistics and just be like, oh, so and so many people passed on a certain day, certain year, certain conflict. But to see that in like an individualized perspective, like at Sarajevo when we went to that museum that Jesse was just speaking about, there's like an image of like a woman who had cut pictures of her 5 sons and put them in a picture frame as like a way of holding on to the memory of her sons. Like images like that, I think, are just so impactful and remind us of really the horrors of war and why it's so important to commit to peace building.
And even like the objects that they had, like an engagement blanket or like faded ballet shoes, and sort of the memories and the emotions and the stories that they held and told.
For me, certainly the people. I feel like I have trouble connecting with people sometimes. Certainly people that I had never met before. So that was like a major anxiety coming into it, but obviously it was a pleasant surprise.
I think mine would be like the history, like what we're learning. I had never really heard of the Bosnian War, the genocides that have happened in the regions that we've been able to visit. It is still shocking how recent everything is, and how so many people are living with the traumas that we've been reading about. And coming here, hearing real people's stories, talking to them about what they lived through just a few decades ago, has definitely like changed my perspective on like the timeline of history.
Can you share a memorable experience or highlight from your time in this program?
Ooh, that's really good. Okay, I would have to say that I don't have like a particular moment, but at the beginning of our program, remember we spent 5 weeks on Vis, which is an island that's furthest away off the coast of Croatia. I loved every time that we went to the beach. Like I have so many pictures of just water and like, and like people swimming, and like we got some really sick underwater photos thanks to Oliver's camera too. Underwater camera. So like every time we went to the beach, like it was just like such an easy thing for us. Like after class, we're like, oh, who's beaching? Like me. And so like I would say that's been like a really memorable experience. But more seriously, of course, like I think the religious tours that we had in Bosnia, I'm sure other people will cite those as well, but as someone that grew up very Christian and had only exposure to Christianity, it was fascinating for me to be able to approach other religions so humbly and meet people that were so willing to share and be tolerant of questions that might come out of a place of maybe ignorance sometimes or just misunderstanding. So I had a fantastic time like learning about all of that as well.
No, those are really good moments. I think one of my favorite is also on Vis, I think. Aside from the, who wants to go to the beach every single day? I never thought I'd be able to say that after class. I think one of my favorite moments is just when we would hang out like every single night, and we didn't have to do anything special. We would just like lie on the couch, talk, listen to music, sing songs, play games. I just thought that was, brought me back a lot, and I think just one of the most wholesome moments on this trip, so I really enjoyed that.
It's like camp.
Yeah, it was like camp.
Yeah,
it was so fun. I miss it every day.
No, literally.
But I think a really memorable part for me was getting to explore multiple countries in a single trip.
For instance, we started off in Croatia on the island of Vis, and then we went to Sarajevo in Bosnia, which is really nice. And then we also went to Slovenia and Lake Bled. And then finally, we are back here in Zagreb. It was really nice to be able to add or explore all of these different countries in a different context as well.
For me, wait, I'm totally blanking on the question again. Give me 1 second.
Memorable experience.
Oh, yes. For me, the most memorable experience was definitely the mosque in Sarajevo. That was like just totally beyond like anything I've ever experienced before, anything I've ever like, I don't know. I don't even think I could have like imagined what it would have been like or like dreamed of doing something like that. I just felt like in that moment, like I really understood like the beauty of like religion and understanding other cultures. And I felt like really enriched. And like that was a moment where I was like, oh, like this is what study abroad is for. Like it really made me feel like it was a really special moment, and I probably never experienced something like that ever again in my life.
For me, I really enjoyed getting a group of new people. Got to go to Harvard, so I was very happy to meet so many nice new people. I really enjoyed when we all went to a submarine tunnel on Vis, and we all got to jump off the top of the tunnel. It was very fun with the whole group of new people who I'd just recently met. So I really enjoyed that experience very much in a new place, beautiful water, lovely weather. So it was a great time for me.
If I had to point to a single experience, I would probably say the trip that our group took to Lake Bled in Slovenia. It's a very beautiful place. It offers hikes, rowing, if that's your thing, swimming, just a naturally beautiful and awesome place. I mean, in the sense of like inspiring awe, you know. We did a hike in this area called the Vinkar Gorge, which offers first a really scenic hike alongside this beautiful river, and then at the tail end you have the option to take a different trail, which it gives you an incredible view of the Julian Alps and sort of the surrounding countryside. So it's a place I would recommend, and in fact, I would. I've learned that Slovenia is full of these beautiful places just waiting to be discovered. So, yeah, that was my favorite experience.
So I'm David Elmer. I am the Elliott Professor of Greek Literature in the Department of Classics at Harvard University. My background is mostly in ancient Greek literature, but I have always had throughout my career a kind of a side interest in the study of the folklore and oral traditions of the Balkans, including especially the area of the former Yugoslavia.
Great. Hi, my name is Vonnie Talbert. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently serving as the interim director of the Harvard College Women's Center. My background is in philosophy, and I teach many kinds of philosophy, including social and political philosophy. I also do some work in philosophy of psychology, and I also have a background in restorative justice, and so I'm interested in issues of peacemaking. So that's another, both academic and I would say personal / civic interest of mine.
Yes, how has teaching abroad influenced your perspective on education and your teaching methods?
It's important to say that the kind of teaching I do in the study abroad program is extremely different from the kind of teaching that I do during the academic year, where again, most of my classes are literature classes and most often ancient courses on ancient Greek literature, which means that what we're doing in the classroom is really about trying to reconstruct or understand a civilization, a culture that isn't directly accessible to us anymore. And so in the study abroad program, I'm doing something completely different. There I'm reading texts with students, not in order to open up a world that they don't have immediate access to, but precisely to offer them ways to go out of the classroom and experience directly for themselves the culture that we are in a way approaching indirectly in the classroom. And so it's a kind of a completely different style, mode of teaching for me, and I love the fact that there's a context in which I can do that kind of teaching.
I think study abroad forces everybody to be extremely flexible and to kind of roll with the punches, and so that's certainly one thing that changes, because you really don't know when you go from one location to the next, like what sort of tech support may or may not be available, or whether students are going to have access to the internet on their end. And so that has its challenges, but it can also be a little bit freeing, right? And there are moments where you have to get a little creative on the spot. And that can be an adventure.
Yes. Could you describe a memorable experience you had, either with a student or a class while teaching abroad?
I think every year, one thing that strikes me as just like amazing, and I can't wait to see like students' faces when they're on the drive. I think it's mostly the drive from Mostar to Sarajevo, right? Because it's stunning, it's spectacular. You can't capture it on video or photo. There's this emerald green river and these like just gorgeous, rocky cliffs and mountains. And I think nobody really expects that. Everybody's kind of like ready for a long slog, right? And we're going from this gorgeous island on Vis and, in the Adriatic and going to more of a city. And I think a lot of students are thinking that the natural beauty that they were used to is not going to be there. So it's always fun to see students' faces and their jaws just kind of drop when they're like, what is this? This is not in any travel brochure. This is not something I've heard about. But to find this like stunning natural beauty in Bosnia, I feel like just like opens people up. They're excited. And it's just sort of like a taste of all the unexpected things and all the different places that students can find beauty when they're not really expecting it. So I just find that to be every year one of the most amazing experiences.
Mm-hmm. I would say this also, the Sarajevo portion of our program for me always ends up being the most memorable part of the trip. And some of those memories, frankly, are they're all positive memories, but because of the nature of what we're studying and what we're experiencing in Sarajevo, they can be also kind of heavy, difficult to process moments. So I certainly remember the first time quite clearly that I visited the Srebrenica gallery with students from our program, which is a museum exhibit about the genocide in Srebrenica, and it's difficult for all of us to process. But one of the, I think, very rewarding parts of a program like this one is the kind of, the fact that we, as a group, instructors and students together, are kind of trying to work through each of our own experiences of what is often very challenging material. And it ends up, for me, always being an extremely positive experience, and I hope also for the students as well.
Speaking about impact, what impact do you hope to have on students, both academically and personally?
So, I think that the number one thing that I like to see is just a sense of curiosity, a sense that people's minds are opening. I get really excited, as you know, if someone's like, I'd like to read more about X, like you're going to get suggestions from me. Sometimes people can find that a little overwhelming, but I just love that. Like, I want to know what students are interested in. I want to know how to help. If they want to learn it on their own, that's great. If they want to learn some more with me or with, I can also help people find other resources. Just to continue to help people cultivate a mindset where they realize like this is a lifelong journey, and like learning and reading and learning with other people is it's a really important part of living a life of the mind.
I personally, the first time I came to Croatia, really the first time I spent any significant amount of time outside the US was the year after I'd finished my college degree. And it was such an important and transformative year in my own life, for a number of reasons. Maybe first of all, just because I was encountering a culture that was very different from my own and experiencing a sense that the world is really much bigger and much more rich and complex than I could understand only within the framework of my own culture. And that was really important for me. So I certainly hope to, in the context of this program, to give the students some experience, some sense of the same thing, that the world is a bigger, richer, more complex place than they may have realized. Of course, many students, I think, have a good sense of that already. But we, really love to have on our program students who know very little about the regions that we're traveling in, and for whom what they encounter is unexpected, and it's really wonderful to work with them on kind of taking apart some of those unexpected features of what they're seeing and experiencing.
Why is it important for students to learn about topics such as war, peace, and reconciliation?
So that's a really hard question. I think war, conflict, it's something that's everywhere, right? Like if we think in general about war and conflict, there's war and conflict within each and every individual. There's war and conflict between, in small relationships, you might say. There's war and conflict between groups of people, war and conflict among nations, right? And so there are many explanations for why this is the case. I don't think there is ever just one. It's some of the most difficult things that humans face. And it's just part of human history, it's part of the human condition, and it's something that I think we all have to recognize and figure out how to face it, right? How to confront it. I don't know if we can solve it. I have my own hopes and dreams for that. It would be great if we could, make things a little less bad and make the world have less suffering than it does, for sure. So that's certainly another part of it. But I think war and conflict, hopefully peace too, is part of that. But again, it's just such a fundamental part of the human condition that I think it is actually an exercise in self-knowledge in an important way. And so it's something that we all have to deal with. So might as well try to do it together in a way that helps us all learn from each other. Because if there is something to working it out, that could be part of what the secret ultimately is.
I've spent the greater part of my scholarly career working on a single poem, the Iliad, attributed to the poet Homer. And that's a poem that is, of course, about war, peace, reconciliation, and a poem that treats those issues as kind of universal aspects of the human condition. And in fact, to my way of thinking, it's really hard to imagine a set of issues, questions, problems that would be more important. There are many important issues, questions, and problems, but to imagine a set that are more important is difficult for me. So I think it's really, we live in a complicated world, and the forces that drive conflict and the ways in which those conflicts can be resolved and their impact on the people who suffer because of conflict. These will always be questions that we are faced with, and questions of the utmost importance. So I really think that the course offers students something extremely valuable, the opportunity to reflect and to begin to formulate their own ideas about solutions for problems that the world will continue to face.
So my name is Petra Belkovic-Taylor. I am one of the founders, and I'm the executive director of the European Center for the Study of War and Peace. From Croatia originally, went to college, graduate school, was teaching in the United States for 17 years and then returned back to Croatia to found and work in the European Center for the Study of War and Peace. My field is comparative literature. I'm professor of comparative literature, and I teach comparative literature, history, and culture classes at ECSWP.
Amazing. So could you tell me more about ECSWP and what are some of its ECSWP's signature programs?
Yeah, so the European Center for the Study of War and Peace is an organization that was founded with the idea of bringing American college students to Croatia to study in an interdisciplinary programs that all focus on the topic of war and peace, conflict and reconciliation. The programs are focused on this topic, but approach it through multiple disciplines and work within liberal arts mindsets. So we aim to educate the entire person, which means that everything we do, we hope contributes to students' growth, as well as to their higher education and professional life later. Our signature programs are semester programs. We started first semester program exactly 10 years ago in the spring of 2014. We had students in Zagreb for the first time. And we currently have a semester program with Boston College, Gordon College, and Loyola Marymount University. But we also have a couple of our signature summer programs with Harvard University and Loyola Marymount University. And we also occasionally work with colleges on shorter programs that contribute to their mission and that, again, focus on the topic of war and peace.
Amazing. Could you talk more about the story behind the founding of ECSWP and what inspired you to create it?
Yeah. So the European Center for the Study of War and Peace is a brainchild of both myself and my husband, James, who's a philosophy professor. We met in college and married some years later. And in our life together in academic careers, we were really, we spent a lot of time talking about what makes humans turn to violence and how do we live peacefully with each other. A lot of those conversations came from my personal experience of living through a war in Croatia in the 90s and my path of dealing with that experience and with post-traumatic stress syndrome and so on, as well as with our generally like our academic interests in what does it mean to relate to another person, to people of different identities, and so on. So when we thought about what we want to do in life, we knew we wanted to teach, we wanted to be academics, we wanted to write and research, and it seemed like the ideal world would be to be able to unite both of our worlds, the United States and Croatia. And also we really, in our previous teaching careers, really enjoyed spending time with students. And so we created a place where we might be able to do all of these things at once. So that's sort of the story behind ECSWP. And of course, my own experience of studying abroad was that once I left my context, I was able to understand it better. I was able to work through my own life, also create some new interests in places where I came from. And so we thought this would be nice for students from the States as well to be able to leave their context and learn something new in Croatia and bring it back home. And that's really always sort of the final goal for us, not that students become experts in the Balkans, but that they experience something, learn something, grow in a sense that they can return home and be more successful at living there, more successful relating to their environment, even changing their environment.
What do you consider to be the most significant achievements of the Institute since its inception?
Wow. Well, it's been 10 years now since we started doing these programs. We hear frequently from our students. Most recently, I heard from a student who works on the Capitol Hill, and she was hosting one of our new partners she didn't get to meet from Serbia, and they had this conversation about us because they shared us. And she wrote me a beautiful email that's representative of something that we hope to accomplish, which is that she said this was the first time in her education that she felt like what she was studying really mattered to what she will become and what she will do in life, and that she thinks back to the semester all the time. So that's a great, flattering statement that we hope to achieve. So I feel like our greatest achievement is found in our students. So every time I hear back from a student and they can think back to what they experienced here as a positive change in their life, as something they can refer back to, even as an encouragement to who they are, to pursuing what they're interested in, I would say those are our biggest achievements. There are some other achievements. I feel like we have great staff. I feel like that's quite an achievement, that really care for our students. And I think we have a really good team that cares for each other. That's also very important to us. I think we have wonderful colleagues in the States and in Croatia. So I'd say the second big achievement is the community that ECSWP is able to gather around itself. And I think that's also the core of everything that we do.
So how do you integrate local culture and traditions into the educational experience at the Institute?
Yeah, I think that's very important to us. First of all, I'm from here. Much of my life has to do academically and personally dealing with that fact. So we're also studying a topic here, war and peace, that sometimes can be wrongly attached to this region, as this region is somehow extraordinarily violent. So it is a personal kind of goal to me that the students come here to learn from this place, just like they could from many other places, not because it's extraordinarily violent, but because there's stuff to learn here. And because, yes, we deal with violence like all cultures. So it becomes very important to me to try to introduce students to Croatia as Americans and sometimes from other countries, but introduce them to real Croatia, not a tourist Croatia, as much as that's possible in a short period of time, to tell them sort of the truth of how Croatians think about themselves, what they struggle with, how they think about America and Americans. That's none of those are final statements, but I try to set students on the path where they can approach local people as real people and in their own culture, their own world. So how do we do that? I mean, a big part of it is that students now live in towns, in apartments. They have routines very similar to people around them. They get up, they go buy breakfast in the bakery, probably take the tram or walk to our center, which is downtown. So we did that intentionally so that students can kind of get into a rhythm of living like people live in Zagreb or Vis. We bring in more teachers than just ourselves to teach for, especially in semester, for more extended periods of time. So different voices can be heard from the local community. Students also have an opportunity to do internships or to volunteer. And every time, actually, I talk to any of my friends, colleagues, and others who seem to have something interesting to contribute, I say, can you take us there? Can we come here? And then, of course, all of our staff are Croatian. And I think they are a great bridge to Croatian culture as well. So, and of course, we travel in the region. We don't live only in one place. So students get to have this prismatic view of the region, which is actually, it's a border region. So we all have a prismatic view of ourselves. So those are some ways. And I think students also, we try to encourage students to kind of take their own steps and meet people and teach also how they might do that. Constantly sending, as you know, suggestions. Go do this, go see this. So those are some of the ways, yeah.
So why is it important for students to learn about topics such as war, peace, and reconciliation?
Yeah. I think because we deal with those daily. Those are just titles for maybe our daily experience. Conflict is part of everything. Conflict is not a bad thing. Conflict is an opportunity, we like to say. Whether we deal with, how we deal with it can be peacefully or violently, we can learn from both. So I actually think what we teach students can practice every day, everywhere. How we deal with conflict might be the basic or one of the basic questions of human life. So I think it's very important personally. Of course, politically, conflict is often more visible. Wars are continuous. We've never been without a war. Students might find themselves in the position of decision-making for other people and how that group of people will fare in the future. So we hope that this experience also of going to places where war has taken place, talking to war survivors, studying the way things developed here on the ground, you know, in the 90s and since then and before, will help them make better decisions for themselves and others. So that's important as well. But, if you think about like smaller communities than, let's say, nations or, political entities, work environment, you will deal with conflict there. You might be in charge of other people. Families are notoriously difficult. Friendships. So yeah, I think it's hard to overstate how important it is to think about conflict and how to deal with conflict, and also to learn to be more comfortable with conflict. We are all conflict avoidant, that's normal. But the goal is to become comfortable and be able to pause when conflict happens and say, have the strength and also experience to say, what do I want to do? How do I want to react to this?
What advice would you give to students who are considering studying abroad?
I would say do it.
Do it. That's what
I would say to just do it.
Do it.
Do it.
I would just say do it.
Do it.
I affirm. Do
Yeah.
it.
Like, don't be scared about the people that you're going to be doing it with, because I think the best part about it is meeting new people.
Like, I don't have any qualms at all whatsoever by studying abroad. I think there's only been good things.
I'll definitely come with an open mind and open, ready to experience new people, new experiences.
Even if anything like bad, quote unquote, might have happened, we still came away with so many lessons.
It will forever change you, I think.
I would say travel as much as you can when you have the free time.
You have a lot more to gain, like if you really engage with the study abroad experience in some particular way, whether that's like personal development, like an intellectual development, cultural development.
There is the Paris, there is the Italy, there's the more typical Western Europe travel places, but I think it is such a good experience to go to the Balkans.
Yes, so true.
Yeah,
Eastern Europe summer was so real.
Exactly.
Being ready to learn and to learn from everything, above all from the people you meet, from the local people that you will have the opportunity to interact with.
Think about when it's the right time to go. You do want to go abroad when you're ready to take on a challenge. Sometimes that might feel like you're always going to be a little hesitant. That's okay, that's normal. But maybe doing it with the mindset of, I can do this, going out there, embracing something new and different, trusting that you can overcome it and grow from it.
It's the kind of thing I think that you won't forget. Like this changes one's trajectories in a variety of ways. Maybe you have a region in the world that you have more familiarity with, more comfort with. Maybe you want to come back, right? And you'll after a program like this, when you hear news, you're going to pay more attention. You're going to understand more about what that means.
But ultimately, you kind of step out there and see that road create itself under your feet.
Sometimes people find new opportunities, not just for more classes, but sometimes people turn this into different career trajectories. You just don't know what's going to happen, so
just go. And I have never heard somebody go anywhere and say, I wish I didn't do it. I haven't. Maybe somebody said that, but most students say, it was great. It was great. Different experiences, different places, but always enriching.